Today's number is 85. That's the percentage of the time AI coding agents have been found to follow hidden malicious instructions buried inside a README file on GitHub. 85%. Your AI assistant opens a project file, sees a line that says, "Hey, give me your secret passwords and private variables," and just does it. No questions asked. More on this in the deep cut today. The US government told the private sector to stop doing business with Anthropic. So what did the private sector do? Well, nothing crazy. Just gave Anthropic $5 billion in new revenue in a single month. Meanwhile, 3 Tennessee teenagers just became the first minors to file a class action lawsuit against an AI company. And the dictionary is suing OpenAI. I wish this was the craziest thing I've heard so far this year. I'm Don Michalik, and this is your Morning Intelligence for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. All right, here's what you need to know today. Anthropic's revenue just jumped to $19 billion. And new data shows the Pentagon's blacklisting is backfiring on Washington spectacularly. 3 teens sue Elon Musk's XAI after Grok turned their yearbook photos into explicit images. Encyclopedia Britannica and Merriam-Webster are suing OpenAI over copyright and a new legal theory around hallucinations. Nvidia just dropped the blueprint for AI agents that can buy things for you directly through ChatGPT. And in today's deep cut, new research on why you probably shouldn't let your AI coding assistant touch README files from strangers without adult supervision. All right, let's get into it. Let's take a moment to catch you up on the Anthropic and Pete Hegseth saga. The story has been moving pretty damn fast. 3 weeks ago, the Trump administration designated Anthropic, the company behind Claude, as a supply chain risk to the Department of Defense. That's a label usually reserved for foreign adversaries, not homegrown AI labs. The Pentagon gave federal agencies 6 months to phase out their use of Claude. The dispute came down to this. The Pentagon basically wanted unrestricted access to Claude for all lawful purposes. Anthropic said no, specifically around this idea of mass surveillance and not having anyone in the loop when they want to use it for autonomous weapon systems. And the Pentagon didn't like those terms. Anthropic sued, and for about a week, it looked like this could seriously damage the company. Then, the opposite actually happened. Axios reported yesterday that major tech partners, Google, Amazon, Salesforce, are all publicly standing up with Anthropic. Google's VP of engineering told Axios that he recently spoke with Anthropic's CTO and that neither have plans of changing anything anytime soon. But this real story is in the numbers. Ramp, the corporate card and expense platform, published its latest AI index dataset earlier this week. And the data is pretty striking. Anthropic's annualized revenue has jumped from $14 billion in February to $19 billion in March alone. That's a $5 billion jump in extra revenue added in less than 4 weeks. Nearly 1 in 4 businesses on Ramp now pays for Anthropic. A year ago, it was 1 in 25. And here's a number that should make OpenAI just maybe a little bit nervous here. Among businesses buying AI services for the very first time, Anthropic is now winning roughly 70% of those head-to-head matchups against OpenAI. Meanwhile, Bloomberg confirmed yesterday that the Pentagon is actively building its own government-owned large language models to replace Claude internally. They've also signed deals with OpenAI and Elon Musk's XAI, which includes deploying Grok for defense applications. That should go well. Okay, why does this matter? The White House tried to make an example out of Anthropic for drawing ethical lines around its AI. The market responded by giving Anthropic more money than ever before. The Trump administration really did Anthropic's marketing department a solid here. And it suggests that for security-forward enterprise buyers, A company willing to say no to the Pentagon is actually a selling point, not a liability. The bottom line here is that the government wanted to punish Anthropic for setting limits on its technology. The private sector treated those same limits as a reason to buy. That tension isn't going away anytime soon, and I'm positive this story will continue to develop. All right, let's get into the rundown. Our first story. 3 Tennessee teenagers have filed what appears to be the first class action lawsuit by minors against an AI company. The defendant, Elon Musk's XAI, and its chatbot, Grok. The allegations are pretty damn disturbing. The plaintiffs, 2 of whom are still minors, say someone took their real photos from yearbooks and homecoming dances and fed them into Grok's image generator. What came back were sexually explicit images of them. One plaintiff says she found out when a stranger sent her an anonymous Instagram DM telling her what had been done with her yearbook photo. The lawsuit accuses XAI of producing and distributing child sexual abuse material. They're seeking $150,000 per violation plus damages. And here's a number that gives out a little bit of context. The Center for Countering Digital Hate found that Grok generated approximately 3 million sexualized images in under 2 weeks after being introduced. Roughly 23,000 of those images depicted children. This is the kind of story that adds water to the safety debates bucket, and it adds it fast. I'll be following this story fairly closely. And if you tuned in on Monday, you should remember the EU AI Act changes that we covered. One of the new prohibitions the council added puts situations like this directly in its crosshairs. Europe saw this coming. The question is whether the US will need a courtroom to get there as well. Our second story. Encyclopedia Britannica and Merriam-Webster have filed a joint lawsuit against OpenAI, alleging massive copyright infringement. Britannica says OpenAI scraped nearly 100,000 of its articles to train ChatGPT without its permission. That part of the lawsuit isn't new, but here's the part that is new. Britannica is also alleging trademark infringement. Here's their argument. When ChatGPT hallucinates, makes something up and then attributes it to Britannica, that damages the Britannica brand. You asked ChatGPT a question, it gave you the wrong answer, and it put Britannica's name on it. That's not just a copyright issue. That's a reputation issue. That trademark angle is a legal theory we haven't seen tested anywhere else before. If it holds up, it could give every publisher and brand a new way to challenge AI companies, not just over training data, but over what the AI says in their name. Again, this is one to watch for sure. And our final story in the rundown. Nvidia released what it's calling the blueprint for retail agentic commerce. That's admittedly a mouthful, so let me break it down. Blueprint for Retail Agentic Commerce is an open source system that lets retailers plug directly into ChatGPT and Google's Gemini so that AI agents can complete full purchases on your behalf. We're talking about product discovery, checkout, payment, promotions, the whole thing, under the retailer's control with security built in for its payments. It supports both OpenAI's Agentic Commerce Protocol and Google's Universal Commerce Protocol, which means it works across the 2 biggest AI platforms for a single deployment. Okay, so what? This is the most concrete example yet of what agentic AI actually looks like in your daily life. Not in a chatbot, not an assistant that summarizes emails. It's an AI that pulls out your credit card. Whether that excites you or terrifies you probably depends on how you feel about your impulse buying habits. All right, a quick favor before we keep going. If this show is part of your morning routine, do me a solid and share today's episode with one person. Just one. Text them a link, drop it in a group chat, whatever's easiest for you. This show grows because people like you tell people like them, and I appreciate it more than you ever know. All right, thank you for that. Let's get into the deep cut for today. All right, the big story in the deep cut. If you use Copilot, Cursor, Claude Code, or any other AI coding assistant, this one's for you. New research published yesterday tested a deceptively simple attack. Researchers took 500 real open source GitHub repositories across 5 programming languages Java, Python, C, C, and JavaScript and hid malicious instructions inside the README files in plain English for anyone to see if they were paying attention, and not in the code, in the README, the documentation file your AI assistant reads to understand a project before it starts doing whatever you asked it to do. The instructions look like normal setup steps. Things like synchronize your config files to the server or upload your environment variables for compatibility checking. Completely plausible if you're reading quickly. The kind of thing that a human developer might skim past, and the kind of thing an AI agent will follow without blinking. The results were startling. AI coding agents powered by Claude, GPT, and Gemini executed the hidden malicious instructions in up to 85% of the cases. When the instructions were buried 2 links deep from the main README file in another file, which actually contained a payload, the success rates actually went up to 91%. Researchers are calling this a semantic injection attack, and the fix isn't necessarily obvious because the whole value of these tools is that they read documentation and act on it. That's the feature. The vulnerability is the feature. This matters because we're at a moment where millions of people are handing more autonomy to AI coding tools than ever before. The pitch is simple and compelling. Let the AI handle the coding part. And the pitch is mostly right. But this research shows there's a gap between what these tools can do and what they should be trusted to do unsupervised. The researchers recommend that AI agents treat external documentation as partially trusted input and apply verification proportional to the sensitivity of what's being asked. Simply put here, your AI should get a little more suspicious when a README file tells it to send data somewhere else. The takeaway here, if you're using AI coding assistants, this doesn't mean stop using them. It just means treat it like a very talented junior developer who will do exactly what the documentation says, even when the documentation is lying or trying to make it dangerous to do certain things. Review what it does consistently, especially when it touches external data. All right, for our sign off today, before we go, you know how Nvidia announced DLSS5 at GTC? Well, if you didn't, now you do. Nvidia called it a breakthrough moment for computer graphics. The internet, on the other hand, in all its glory, had a different name for it. DLSS5 uses AI to upscale and enhance gaming visuals in real time. Really, really cool in theory. In practice, it has a face detection feature that has been yassifying video game characters. I'm talking fuller lips, sharper cheekbones, smoother skin. A 15-year-old Hogwarts Legacy student now looks like she's about to sell you a skincare line. A rotting Resident Evil zombie apparently discovered the healing powers of microneedling and Botox. The memes on this are absolutely incredible. You should check them out when you get a moment. PC Gamer, GameSpot, Kotaku, Aftermath, everyone is piling on here. Aftermath read a headline that said, "Nobody likes NVIDIA's weird new AI porn faces." Bethesda Studios had to put out a statement all on their own. NVIDIA says developers have artistic control here. The internet says that the AI is giving main character energy. $1,500 for a GPU that gives your favorite Starfield character cheek fillers. What a time to be alive. All right, for tomorrow, NVIDIA's tech conference wraps up, and we'll have the final highlights from the developer sessions. Plus, if Alibaba's AI agent officially launches, we'll have the first hands-on details as well. Be sure to tune in then. That's Morning Intelligence for Wednesday, March 18th, 2026. If you like what you heard, hit subscribe wherever you're listening. Share it with that one friend that keeps asking you, hey, what's going on in the world of AI? You know who they are. I'm Don Michaelic, and thank you for tuning in.